Hey guys, my name is Gabby, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be filming my April wrap-up. I read a total of 9 books. There's 4 audiobooks, 4 regular books, and then 1 ARC. And to be quite honest with you, it was kind of a shitty reading month for me because I didn't really enjoy a lot of the material I was reading and I just didn't really have as much time to read as I wanted to this month. I just started new classes at my college this quarter and I'm taking 2 English classes. I'm taking an English level 2 class and a creative writing class, and the amount of reading and writing assignments is ridiculous, so I haven't really had as much time to read as I normally do. I kept starting like so many different books and then not being able to finish them, and I'm just like halfway through so many different things right now and it's a mess. But yeah, let's get to what I did read this month. Let's just jump right into it. The first book I read this month was actually a reread of one of my favorites, and that was Landline by Rainbow Rowell. I decided to listen to the audiobook this time around. The first time I read this, I'm pretty sure I gave it like 4 out of 5 stars, but this time around when I read it, I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. I didn't love it as much the second time through. Loved Georgie and Neil a lot the first time I read it, and then the second time around, I felt like Neil was just very annoying, and he was never very like loving with her. Like, I don't know, he just got really irritating the second time around for me. And Georgie is like an okay character. She's definitely not one of my favorites from Rainbow Rowell, but I've just been in a mood lately to reread all of Rainbow Rowell's books, and this one was just kind of disappointing the second time through. The second book I read this month was Geek, Arella by Ashley Poston. This is one that I talked about in my Try a Chapter book tag. I read the first chapter of this book and talked about it a little bit. I think I did speak a little bit too soon in comparing this book to Fangirl. This book is a Cinderella retelling. I love that this book involves like fandoms, like, and it shows in like kind of like Fangirl in that way that it has like fandoms in this book. It's told from the point of view of Danielle and from her love interest, which is actually the lead actor of the movie that she's like a huge fan of and she writes fan fictions for, so it's like it's really cute in that sense. But I do think that the romance was so cheesy. I don't know, it was a very cute concept, but after a while it just kind of got cheesy and I felt like I was too old maybe for this, and I ended up giving it 3 stars. It was cute, and if you like Cinderella retellings, I'm sure you'll like it, but it wasn't one of my favorites ever. The third book I read this month was Wedlocked by Ella Frank and Brooke Blaine, and this is the 3rd book in the series that follows Dylan and Ace Locke. Ace is like a huge actor, Dylan is mostly a model. He acted in a movie with Ace, and this book is the final book in this series that follows them at their wedding, and it's just so cute. I just loved this book so much, and Dylan and Ace are one of my biggest OTPs of all time, and I'm so sad that this series is actually over. Ugh. And the epilogue in this book is so cute. I really loved this book. It was one of my favorites of the month. I love this series so much. Every single book is so good. I highly recommend it. The 4th book I read this month was In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware, and this is another audiobook I listened to, and I actually picked this book up because I saw it recommended on Reese Witherspoon's Instagram on her like book club thing. This book ended up being okay. I mean, it's a very intense thriller. It's about this girl named Lee who goes back to her childhood friend Claire's pre-wedding party thing. It's kind of like, I feel like it's like a bachelorette party. They're all going to this cabin in the middle of the woods, and it's super like creepy, and then like in alternating chapters one of them gets murdered and you're like trying to figure out who did it in the alternating chapters, and it's just like very intense. But I did end up giving this one 3 stars because it's just not very memorable in my head, and all the characters are kind of like flat, and did think the ending was a little bit cheesy and just kind of, I don't know, it was unpredictable, but it was still kind of like, Right, the 5th book I read this month was The Marriage Lie by Kimberly Bell, and this is another thriller. Clearly I was just in the mood for thrillers this month. The book follows this couple named Iris and Will, and they've been married for 7 years now. Will is set off to Orlando on a plane that's, he says he has like a conference for his work there, and then Iris hears on the news that this plane that was going to Seattle crashes and all the passengers on this plane were killed. And then she's like, oh my god, she's like freaking out at first, but then she realizes it said it was to Seattle. But then she finds out that Will was on that plane, and she doesn't understand why her husband would lie to her about where he was going. This string of lies, like you could not believe how many lies he's told her, and it's just such an incredible story, and it's such a page turner. Like I was like, oh, like I read it all in one day and it was just like impossible to put down. There was just never ending plot twists. It was so good, and I love this book. And the ending started to get a little bit out of hand and like ridiculous in my opinion, but then that final scene on the last page, I was like, oh, like tripping. Oh my god, it was so good. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. It's definitely one of my new favorite thrillers for sure. This one had a lot of plot twists I didn't see coming, and it was just very suspenseful and very awesome. The 6th book I read this month was Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is the only book by Taylor Jenkins Reid I haven't read yet, and it's her debut novel, and this book follows this girl named Elsie and her husband Ben, who have been married for only 9 days when Ben gets killed in an accident. Basically, that's the whole premise of the book, and then in alternating chapters we get to see Elsie living after Ben's death and then how they met, which was only 6 months ago. It freaking kills me to say this, but I kind of hated this book. And I know it's like, what the heck, because Taylor Jenkins Reid is one of my favorite authors of all time, and like, I don't know why I didn't like this book. One of the problems I had with this book is that it was hard to feel like I was rooting for the romance when they had only been dating 6 months before they got married, and then they'd only been married 9 days before he died. I just didn't care for the writing in this, which I'm so shocked because Taylor is like one of my favorite writers, but the writing in this was so terrible. It was so cliche and cheesy, and just like, it read like a bad fan fiction, from the way they like meet to the way they talk to each other. It's just, it was like, ugh, it was so frustrating. And I will say that part 2 of this book is a lot better than the first half, but the first half is so hard to get through. Like, I put this down so many times, but I pushed myself to finish it because I was like, it's Taylor Jenkins Reid, she's my favorite, I have to finish it. Unfortunately, I didn't really like this one. And not to mention, Elsie is so over dramatic and so fucking hypocritical at times. Like, I couldn't even believe, like, I was highlighting passages and being like, WTF. So I would definitely recommend any of Taylor Jenkins Reid's other books over this one. I didn't like this one. I ended up giving it 2 out of 5 stars. The 7th book I read this month was The Wanderers by Meg Howry. This is a book I didn't end up finishing, a little bit more than halfway through, and I just decided to call it quits. But this is a sci-fi that is about putting human beings on Mars, and a lot of people are comparing this to The Martian, but honestly, it's nothing like The Martian. So many one-dimensional characters that I could not give two shits about, and I found this book really hard to like pay attention to. All the characters are just so robotic and one-dimensional and just boring as shit. This book was boring as shit, so I ended up giving this one 2 out of 5 stars. Didn't really care for it. 8th book I read this month was Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris, and this is another thriller. Really in the mood to read thrillers lately. This is a very intense story following this couple, Jack and Grace, and their very abusive marriage, as I'm sure you can guess from the Goodreads description. It kind of tries to like play with words, but it's very obvious that they're in an abusive situation, and Jack Angel has got to be the most sadistic, disgusting fictional character I have ever come across in novels. He's just so disgusting and he gives me the creeps. The only reason why Grace is staying with him is because she has a sister, Millie, who has Down syndrome and is living in this home, and he's like threatening to bring the girl home, like her sister home, and make her live with them. Grace loves her sister so much and she doesn't want her to be living with them, and it's just like such a terrible situation. Like, it's honestly such a dark book, and it really like got to me. I do think that it is a really good book, even though it is predictable, and in the end it doesn't really like bring anything new to this situation of like abuse. And at times Grace got so frustrating because I felt like she had so many missed opportunities to like tell people what was happening to her. It was just like very repetitive in that way, and it kind of got on my nerves. Other than that, I thought it was really enjoyable, and I ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars. The last book I read this month was Dating You, Hating You by Christina Lauren. I got an ARC of this book, and this book does come out in June. Thank you so much to Gallery Books for sending me an ARC after I begged them to, because I love Christina Lauren. Unfortunately, I didn't end up loving this book like I wanted to. This book follows Carter and Evie, who are both talent agents in Hollywood. This book sounds like it should be right up my alley, right? Because Christina Lauren, one of my favorite authors ever, a standalone new adult romance, which just already sounds great in itself, and then it also takes place in Hollywood, and like they're dealing behind the scenes of movies. Like, it should be right up my alley, but this book was so boring, and I didn't like Carter, I didn't like Evie, I didn't like their chemistry or them as individuals. They were just very boring, and there was so much like business in this book, like so much talk about their jobs, that it was just so boring. I felt like there was more of the hating than the actual liking each other, you know, and it just kind of got annoying. It was trying to be like The Hating Game by Sally Thorne, but it's like nowhere near on that level. I'm just so upset because like this was one of my most anticipated books of the year because it just sounds like it'd be so great, but I just didn't like it that much, and I don't know why. This month, I didn't like a book by Christina Lauren, and I didn't like a book by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I don't know what's wrong with me. Those are all of the books that I've read this month. As you can see, it was kind of a reading month. I mean, I was really in the mood to read thrillers this month. I noticed that. I didn't realize how many thrillers I had actually read until I was doing this wrap up. I guess I was more in the mood to read thrillers than romance this month. I don't know. And I'm kind of disappointed in myself because I told myself I'd be reading more LGBT books so I could make a recommendation video. And I only read the one that was Dylan and Ace, the third book in a series that I was already going to recommend. So it's like stupid. I just wanted to mention that next month I am very excited to read Into the Water by Paula Hawkins, and all of the book of the month options for May are very exciting, and I'm going to be reading all of the ones that I got sent. I'm just so excited to read those. And also, I just ordered the other day off Amazon. I ordered Alex Approximately and By Your Side, and I've heard nothing but great things about both of these, so I'm probably going to be reading these in May, and I'm really looking forward to them. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm going to be filming my April wrap-up in the month of... Did I say May?